Pandora's box is about to open wide.
That was Brenna McMillan with her new single, If You Dare. We love Brenna McMillan. She came on the pod before and she was one of the best guests we ever had. Much love and respect to you, Brenna McMillan. Go and give her a follow on Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that. And if you're not following Pandora's Box on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and all of that good stuff, please go and give us a follow, and then you can keep up to date with all of our shenanigans and all of our pods, whether we have guests on or whether it's just the three original amigos of Pandora's Box, myself, Drewster and young Bullwinkle over here. But yeah, we're bringing you a brand new pod today, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for chilling with us today. And it's quite a momentous episode because it's the first ever Pandora's Box where Drewster is a father.
Father Drew.
Father Dougal. Father Dougal. He's now
I am now a priest.
He is now a priest. He's become anointed in fatherhood, and he is now Father Dougal. Father Dougal with his wee lad Angus. Angus Armstrong.
Oh, I wish I did call him Angus now. That's a well good name.
Yeah, I don't know
Angus
why, but
Armstrong.
in my head, this is so weird, isn't it? Ever since he's been born, whenever I thought of your son, I've just thought Angus.
Angus. Maybe in a past life he was Angus in our Scottish heritage.
And then I liked it even more because I realised it was Angus Armstrong, and there's a wrestler Bullwinkle know of from the back in the day, and he was in the Four Horsemen. His name was Arn Anderson, and everyone used to call himself Double A, and he'd be like, Double A, Arn Anderson, and then I was thinking, Double A, Angus Armstrong. And I was thinking, mate, that is like such like a wrestler's name.
Oh, mate.
And I thought, mate, that's what he needs to be.
Well, we still haven't registered the birth yet, with the government, so you know it could be Angus.
To be fair, I can't imagine that Meg will get on board with it. But to me, I think I pretty much already decided that to me it'll always be Angus.
I wanted to get an extra middle name in there, but she won't let me do that.
Really?
I was going to say Angus then. I wanted Reuben Thomas Glenn Armstrong to put my dad's name in there as well, but it's just Thomas, so it's my granddad's. So yeah, it's not going to be Glenn's not going to quite get in there. Sorry, Dad.
It's funny, isn't it? Like, did she just think it was a bit too much of a mouthful?
Yeah, she's like, you're right, because it's my second name, and then I said I wanted Thomas for my granddad as well. She's like, right, that's already two names from your side. Like, that's what you're getting, basically. Right, yeah. Not Thomas Glenn. Reuben Thomas Glenn Armstrong.
Yeah. That's
cool. Yeah, she didn't want two middle names, but like.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it is quite rare. I mean, Evie, my daughter's got two middle names,
and me and my sisters have all got two middle names as well.
I love it how it's almost like that, like your mum's mindset, very much, which I adopted. It was like, can't decide, give them both.
Yeah,
screw it, mate. You know, it's like just like
why not?
Creative endeavours, mate.
That's it. And like Savannah's middle name Echo, like they were gonna call her Echo, but then they thought they couldn't because there was a butter or something from the 80s called Echo Butter.
Serious?
And they all thought they thought that she would get like taking the mick out because of the butter, and also would go,
they get sued.
Hey, Echo. Thought that people would do that in school, so they didn't. But I like Echo as a name.
I love how
Echo's a cool name.
They thought like really in depth into that.
Yeah,
thinking, you know, what if she get bullied in that? That's crazy.
Yeah,
fair play. I mean, that's obviously caring about your child's long term welfare. You know.
I think it was overthinking though, because I think Echo's a nice name, but Savannah's a nice name as well. But
yeah, Savannah's a nice name. And then obviously you got like your other sister Sherelle. What is it? Amber
Rianne, yeah.
Amber Rianne.
I don't know where Rianne come from.
Rhiannon.
Maybe Fleetwood Mac, yeah.
I mean, yeah, but that's Rhiannon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not just Rianne, but yeah, I think with Evie, because Evie's Evelyn, Emily, Christina. It's hard, isn't it? Because I think with what you wanted your son to be, it's like you almost want to. You want to pay almost like those little respects, don't you? And like Emily's middle name is her mum's name, so thought it'd be quite nice for her daughter to have her middle name.
Yeah.
But then, like my mum's middle name's Christina, and it just so happened that, like, I know, I mean, mum's always been so good to us and stuff, and obviously we didn't know it at the time, but would go on to be such a good grandmother as well to Evie, like as good a grandmother as you could get. So it's almost like, yeah, do you know what I mean? It's almost like showing that respect, and because I'm just quite like the name Christina as well. You know, it's like it's not super common, but it sounds quite classy. Do you know what I mean? It's quite nice. It's like, yeah, not too common, but it's not like too weird and abstract, but. Yeah, it's quite a nice name, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, man. 100%.
So it's like, well, couldn't really decide, so it's just like give her both. And I don't think it like rolls off the tongue too strange. Like Evelyn, Emily, Christina Waite. You know, like it's not like too weird. You know?
Is that almost always the way that a middle name is like paying homage?
Like mine is my granddad's name.
Traditionally it is, yeah. I mean, obviously, especially if you go back. I mean, it used to be even more of a thing back in the day. Like, say, my grandfather is technically John Waite III. So his father was called John Waite. Yeah. And then his father was John Waite.
And my granddad, Thomas, and like, so my uncle, he did that with his son. So my uncle, Tom is Thomas as well.
He was the firstborn boy.
But, and we looked back in the Scottish records of like, as far as I could find basically, and every male going back was Thomas.
Yeah.
Tom, son of Tom.
Yeah. So it seems like they've done that for years.
Yeah.
So I've got it in there still, Thomas, but just as a middle, just to almost try and keep that going like a bit. But because my uncle Thomas didn't have any sons, so it kind of stopped like there that tradition.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, what is it? Is it on the website called like hereditary.com or something? And you can like print off. I got you one. It's like a housewarming.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I think it's hereditary.
Oh right.
When Drew got his flat, I got him as a housewarming.
Yeah, man, I've still got that. That's awesome.
And you can get it, and it has your like family crest and motto, and then it gives all the history of your family surname. And I've got one, and even on that with like the weights, it's so funny because obviously it's not necessarily my branch. I mean, obviously originally you'd all been the same. Well, it depends, because obviously you could have an occupational surname which would be slightly different than whatever, you know. But even on that, it's like, you know, at the end of it, and it's like says like, it will say like notable Armstrongs or notable weights. Even like half of them, it's just like John Waite. It's like notable weights.
That's mad.
Like John Waite, who moved to Boston, Massachusetts in like 16, and then it'll be like, and Thomas Waite, and then John Waite, and then like Daniel Waite, and then John Waite. You know, it's like half of them are just John. It's like, I love how many just John Waits there are, you know. Do you remember your the quote from your crest? What's yours? Mine is for our hearths and our homes, which I quite like.
That's a cool one. That's very cool.
I quite like that because I feel like for like myself personally, I feel like it's naturally in me to like almost like defend and serve my family, which is sort of what that motto means. Do you know what I mean? It's like everything you do in life is for your hearth and your home, which is like you know, your hearth was like it can mean almost fireplace, which obviously back in the day would have been far more important, because back in the day your fireplace would have been what you did everything on. It would have been
cooking,
warm, cooking, everything, right? But it also is an old-fashioned name for homes as well. You could also mean, if you said like my hearth like 500 years ago, would mean like my home. And I feel like, you know, by saying that,
of the home.
It's saying like your family and everything, you know. So like everything, my life is dedicated to my hearth and my home. It's almost like saying my life is dedicated to my family, you know. So I always thought, it's quite nice. It's like honouring the people around you, isn't it?
Yeah, the Armstrong one is Invictus Manio, which means remain unvanquished, which I thought was pretty cool. Which is
I've done quite a lot of research into the Scottish clans as well, because of it's just interesting history, and also because my grandmother maiden name is Scott, and the Scots were a border clan, the same as the Armstrongs. And the Scots and the Armstrongs actually had quite a shared history, and there were some certain clans that the Scots went to war with, as was quite common, you know, the Scottish border clans. That often, a lot of the Scottish clans went to war with each other. When they weren't battling the English, they would often battle each other. And I know that the Armstrongs were basically on the brink of extinction at one point, and I think that's probably why they got that motto. I don't know that for a fact, but it makes sense, doesn't it? I know that they were almost completely wiped out because they had essentially annoyed so many other Scottish clans that they had like teamed up, and they wanted to like wipe out the Armstrongs because they thought
there's something that happened. There was a meeting, and they managed to get most of the Armstrong heads of families to this meeting that was all like no weapons and stuff, and then when they got to meet, they just killed them all.
Like pulled a red wedding on them.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That happened to the Armstrong clan.
That's crazy.
I was like, damn.
And also quite like hilariously, do you know what I mean? It's like, out of all the people in Game of Thrones, Drew looks like if you think about people like Sherelle and Drew, their like hair colour and skin colour is almost like Rob and Catelyn Stark.
You've literally got Rob's like haircut at the moment.
Yeah, you know,
Starks.
You know,
I am a Stark.
You know, like that. You know, when like obviously Ned went down to King's Landing, then Rob almost like took over as the man of the house, and he has that like, and even in the books, he's described as having like auburn hair, which he took after his mother. Do you know what I mean? And like Catelyn Stark has like auburn hair and stuff like that. So it's like, it's quite funny. It's just ironic that you have that hair colour.
I thought it was pretty mad looking at this bit of the Armstrong history as well, where they were like a border clan. Apparently, they were quite like arms for hire. So like they wouldn't. they would kind of side with whoever would pay the most money, and sometimes they fought with the English, and sometimes they fought with the Scots.
And that rubbed up some of the. I think that's probably
why it rubbed up a lot of the Scottish clans the wrong way, because they were like known as like a
mercenaries.
Yeah, and they were like arms for hire and stuff, and apparently they did that a lot on the border. Yeah.
From the research I did, because it was probably about 6 months ago the last time I looked into it. I remember it was essentially saying, I don't know if it says it in these words, but from my memory, it was almost like they were seen as quite like mischievous as well. Like it's almost like, like those almost like in Scotland, it was almost like, oh, you want to watch out for those Armstrongs.
Yeah.
Because,
true story.
where they would go, usually like carnage would follow them, regardless of why.
Yeah.
But also it was quite interesting because it did say that like the Scots were a bit more of like a level-headed, like down-to-earth clan. But they were, I think, one of the like few like respected clans that actually like stuck up for the Armstrongs as well, which is quite funny, isn't it? Because obviously we've been friends for so long, and even in school, in that Drew was very impish in school, keeping up that Armstrong, reputation. Do you know what I mean? Like. How would you describe it? Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes you could let your mouth get carried away with you, maybe, but then sometimes maybe land yourself in something that maybe you're a bit like, oh, I might be a bit over my head actually now. But then often I'd just be like, I don't know, just try and be a bit of a mate to you, which is essentially what it sounded like the history of the Scots.
Just replaying those familial histories.
History repeating themselves, man. History repeating themselves. So that's quite funny. But if anybody is interested in that, whether you want to start, maybe if you don't have even any Scottish connections yourselves, it's really interesting. If you're interested in your history and you've watched Outlander or anything, you're interested in Scottish history, look up the history of the border clans. Maybe start with looking at things like the Armstrongs and the Scots and things like that, because it's actually really interesting, and they tend to lead into each other quite a lot. I know that the clan to this day that is most frowned upon is the Campbells. Do you know about that?
Okay, yeah.
Apparently,
the only reason I know about that is because of Outlander. They're a big a part of the story of that. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what? It's been so long since I watched Outlander now. I can't even remember that the Campbells are in it. Obviously, I remember that the main clan is Fraser, James Fraser.
Yeah, the Campbells. Do you remember there's that guy with the real weird bowed legs in it? Did you ever see that? And you remember him?
Was he a Campbell?
I think it was a Campbell. Yeah,
because I think they ended up betraying essentially all of the Scottish. Because I think they basically the English said to them look, we'll give you land and money or whatever, something like that, if you basically betray all of your fellow clans, and they basically said okay, and then because of that I think the Scots lost a big battle.
Right.
And to this day, apparently in Scotland, people won't buy things like Campbell's soup. There's that brand of soup called Campbell's.
That's so
because the people that obviously started Campbell's soup originally, everyone with that surname originates from Clan Campbell. So in Scotland, it's don't buy Campbell's soup because they're a bunch of traitorous BASTARDs. They feel really strongly about it.
What was that big battle that was the Outlander was culminating in it? Was it the Culloden?
Culloden. There's Culloden. There's also Bannockburn.
Yeah, that Culloden one seemed a bit like there was quite a lot of Scottish on the side of the English, for that battle, and it was Yeah,
because I think often in history and that it's almost painted to be a bit more black and white than it really is. But obviously, a lot of the Scots fought on the side of the English. It wasn't like it was all the Scots against the English. I mean, I'm sure some Scottish people fought on the side of the Scottish. A lot of it's to do with it's nuance, isn't it? It's what really benefits you and your family in that situation. Do you know what I mean? If some Scottish lord has said fight for us and we'll give you a bountiful castle and land in the Highlands of Scotland, you're going to be like, all right, there you are, freedom, and just suddenly immediately just starts talking with a Scottish accent that day, man. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And vice versa as well, and vice versa. I think the border clans are some of the most interesting clans, because obviously the Highlands, it sounds almost more romantic, like the Highland clan.
That was a hard life.
Yeah, the Highlanders. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, that's so cool, the Highlanders, even the movie The Highlander. What a movie. But the border clans, because of where obviously they were situated on the border, they ended up obviously being in the thick of a lot of crazy stuff, didn't they? I love how we branched off from just talking about Angus Armstrong and that. And then
little Angus.
little Angus Armstrong, double A.
I searched up my crest and my meaning.
Oh, nice, man.
Warren.
Leo de Juda est roba nostrum, which translates to the Lion of Judah. is our strength.
Oh,
That's pretty cool. I don't know what that
that's
really
crazy.
means, but that's pretty cool.
The Lion of Judah. That sounds very religious to
It
me.
does. It does.
What is the Lion of Judah? I'm going to quickly look up what is the Lion of Judah.
The
The Lion of Judah. Let's have a look up, people.
Judah.
It sounds like something from either the Old or New Testament. The
Like
Lion-
Reuben, who actually Angus's real name, Reuben. That's quite a religious name as well.
That's an
Yeah,
old,
it's
an old
definitely.
Jewish name.
name, yeah, like a,
Yeah.
and it means behold a son.
That's cool.
That's a nice
That's
name,
a cool
man.
name.
What does the Lion of Judah mean in the Bible? The Lion of Judah has long been a symbol of bravery, nobility, and strength. The symbolism is used in the Bible over 150 times, but is most commonly equated with the House of Judah and the descendants of the House of Judah, including Judah himself, King David, King Solomon, and Jesus. So probably your Warrens probably originate from Judaism as well. So
That's
Drew's
quite cool.
given his son a first name, which is Jewish, and yeah, it sounds like maybe your family originally, if you went really far back, maybe were Jews as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Crazy stuff. Yeah, I know we've talked about it a little bit already, man, but what do you think is the craziest thing about becoming a dad that you've noticed so far? Because obviously, for people that don't know, it's this is only your third week now as a father, isn't it?
Third week today.
Yeah, into the thick of it.
Damn.
Yeah, so or 3 weeks today. Yeah.
Tonight at about 9.
Yeah,
10
at
PM.
9:12
Right,
today will be
yeah.
3 weeks completely. But I think from what we were talking about earlier, like the actual just the fact that your life is just never going to be the same now. Like I feel like because I've had like my sister's had kids. Well, I've been living at the house and stuff, and I've been around that like first newborn baby and stuff, and like helped out a little bit in that. I felt like I was like kind of prepared in like a little bit with that kind of thing. But so the actual just like day to day like doing bits I've like feel like picked up quite naturally. But just like I said to Meg like yesterday, like isn't it crazy that this little being is just gonna be like we're gonna see them every day now for like the next like 18 years or whatever, and like and just it's just a part of our life now like that. And yeah, like your life is never gonna be the same, but it's still a complete mystery of how that is going to unfold and look.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how my life is going to look completely different. It's definitely changed this last few weeks, but we've kind of like got into it in a bit of a routine and it feels quite natural, but it's still just going to be like, look completely different. I just hope that it's going to be like, it's going to stay like natural and just becoming like an unfoldment of just a new like direction and journey and stuff that's really positive, rather than like if I think too much on how my life's just completely changed on what it could have been in that, and it's going to be like a bit like, oh whoa, like I'm not like that person anymore, you know. But we'll see how it goes.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think though it's like, you know, if you're committed to your family like me and you are though, do you know what I mean? And it's like there's obviously no thoughts of like, you know, like leaving that responsibility or like turning your back on that responsibility. Then it just sort of is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
It just feels like, oh, this is just a normal change. Like this is what it is now. But like,
and it doesn't stop you being who you are at all. Do you know what I mean? It's just a whole new other part of you in your life, isn't it? You know? And I feel as well, it's a really like an opportunity to almost like develop and sort of show your character. I feel like being like a parent. Do you know what I mean? Because it is like quite hard, and it can be hard at times. But it's like how almost like do you react to that? Do you know what I mean as well? You know, because obviously, unfortunately, you know, there are some people that almost like they are not willing to handle that responsibility, you know, and obviously you hear sometimes about deadbeat parents and stuff like that, and it's almost like, you know, obviously like, you know, you don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And
like,
even like the way we've gone about like the birth and everything, like say Meg's mum's helped us like a lot there, like just with practical things, like because she's really close by. But when like she says about like what her experience was like 30 years ago and that, like she had to do like the shopping the next day and stuff, and like go down and like carry all the shopping up, and there was like no help. I said to her like, did like Meg's dad like help with any of the stuff with the baby and that, and she's just like, no, like not at all, like none of it. He was just like, shut that baby up, like, you know, and stuff, and like, or just like it's just, how it seemed to be like years ago in that, like compared to the way that we're doing it. It just seems completely different. Like I can't imagine like doing anything like that, or like not helping, or like not taking responsibility to like do this or do that.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm doing much more of the practical stuff around the house and cooking and all of that kind of thing, where the baby's wanting to be with Meg more, but like I'm still helping a lot. Like, you know,
oh yeah, because it's like I mean, you know, I think it's like, you know, trying to figure out where you're most needed as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, and we were talking about this like before we started the show, like. I think it's pretty natural for like newborn babies to like primarily want their mum, and I think that's like, you know, like that's really natural and
for them to be able to like nurse them back into equilibrium like quite quickly. It's like it's harder for me to do that sometimes.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, it's like even if you go back to say like our hunter-gatherer society, which is still really what we've evolved for. Do you know what I mean? Like we haven't sort of like caught up in terms of how we're evolved to be, or our instincts like past our hunter-gatherer sort of like ancestors. Like it would have been natural that when there would have been babies around, the father's instincts and hormones would have been like, right, okay, well, the lady I've essentially had this baby with is vulnerable right now, and so is my infant.
Make safe area.
Yeah, so you need to make the area safe, and you need to be making sure that there's food, like for like the mother, so that the mother can eat and then produce high quality breast milk. Do you know what I mean? All of that stuff, which is basically, it's like we're basically doing that, but in a modern world. Instead of like going out and making sure there's like an elk and making sure they're all like safe in that, it's like making sure that there's you're doing all the dishes so your missus don't have to, and making sure that you're doing all the clothes washing so your missus doesn't have to, and making sure you're cooking up all of those chicken and taters and that or whatever, so that you're.
And it's funny because like you naturally do that. Just it's almost like where you're like 100% dedicated to whatever the situation is. It's like what is needed in this moment, and then just kind of do it. And I said to Meg, it's pretty funny, like how this is like naturally how we haven't had to talk about it. It's just like this is what's happening. And I was saying like, I would actually feel uncomfortable having the baby all the time at the moment. Like
I would have done as well.
Hands up. I'm like, I'm just not feeling it in that way. I'd rather make all this thing. And Meg was like, well, that's amazing, because I can't, the thought of doing any of that stuff right now, like I would hate to. And I'm like, oh, that's good then, isn't it? So we both got our roles like without even really thinking about it. Yeah. I felt exactly the same, and I feel like that's probably natural for most people. Not to say obviously everyone, but it's cool how like your natural instincts kind of just those things do like develop like in you ain't got to worry about it. Like I didn't think about that stuff before it happened, but then when you're in it, you just kind of roll with it, and it seems to work itself out.
I think at the end of the day, like a man cannot be a better mother than a freaking mother.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, like that's what a newborn wants. It wants its mother. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that like in the long run a father's not just as important as a mum, but it's like it's a natural thing, and it's all in the woman's instincts as well as like a new mum as well, to be there cradling that infant. Do you know what I mean? And like being there and stuff and stuff. So it's just like natural and normal, and it's like playing to your strength. It's almost just like common sense, really.
Yeah.
You know?
It's been mad seeing like the whole milk thing and that as well, and just like how almost like, say if you like think of a lemon and your mouth waters, like if Meg like starts hearing the baby cry or something, or the milk just starts like coming out and that, and it's like it's crazy that it's just such a natural thing that's not thought about. It's like nature's way of just knowing, and your body's way of just knowing. And there's even something about like the temperature of the milk, and your body will regulate the temperature of the milk based on what it can sense the baby's temperature is and stuff, to change it by like
to bring
degrees.
It up or down.
Yeah. And I'm like, how clever is your body, you know, like to be able to do that, and like the colostrum at the start where it's like loads thicker and everything, and just like
colostrum is like miracle formula.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to have as much, but it's like the nutrients are like packed in there, because their stomachs are only like apparently can only take like 5 ml or something when they're first newborn. Like you know, they could only take, and it grows really quickly like as the days pass. But that's why the colostrum's like thicker in that as well, because it's you know, the stomach's so much smaller, but you've got to pack in all the nutrients in as well. It's like,
just as a side note on colostrum, right? And it's weird because it's one of those. I heard about it, right? No word of a lie. Probably about 7 or 8 years ago, that people were going to start using colostrum as a sports supplement, as like a gym supplement. And I bought like a little tub of bovine colostrum, right? And I looked into some of the science behind it, and it was going on about how it's essentially like miracle grow for like young calves and that, and like, you know, blah blah blah. Like, you know, if like milk is nutritious because of all the vitamins and the calcium and the protein, the high level proteins,
times 10.
Colostrum, it's almost like Super Saiyan.
What is colostrum?
It's like basically what comes out when a very newborn infant.
Yeah, like, before the milk fully comes like in its form, like what it'll be like for months and months. It's just the initial few days. It's like colostrum. It's colostrum, and it's thicker, and it's a different color and stuff. It's like, yeah.
But it's weird because I haven't heard anything about colostrum in years, so I don't know why it seems to have fallen off. You know, sort of out of use, because I remember at the time it seemed like this hot new product. I'm sure there's a reason why, maybe, or maybe it just didn't catch on with many people. But because I haven't looked into it, I've never looked into like, you know, bovine colostrum since. But I bought one little tub of it, and I don't know if it was just circumstantial evidence. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if it just happened. It just so happened that while I took it, I just happened to get some really good like pumps when I was in the gym, because obviously like how good your say a pump is for anyone that's ever had a pump in the gym or chased the pump baby, like chasing the dragon, if you like, for all those skagheads out there. It's like the gym equivalent, you know, like I love the idea that there's just a load of skagheads just in the Pandora's box.
That's our audience.
They were just like, oh yeah, man, I know what you're saying now. Yeah, yeah, but you like things like glycogen. How much glycogen you have in your muscles at the time will have like a massive impact on how much of a pump you get. So essentially, you know, have you taken in carbs like that morning and things like that and the day before? So there's lots of variables on why, you know, how much of a good pump you'll have. But all I can say is, as circumstantial evidence, as I said, I had one little tub of bovine colostrum, and when
some of the best pumps of your life.
When I took that, no joke, you know, like sometimes, have you ever had like a freaking pump in the gym and like you almost can't believe like what you're looking at in the mirror at the moment?
Nope.
Yeah, like, well, I haven't in a while, but I remember just yeah, and I said it might have been circumstantial because at the time I was very dialed in with like my nutrition and sleep and stuff. I was a bachelor at the time, do you know what I mean? So I didn't have like any responsibilities. I wasn't going out like eating so much for pleasure. It was all just like I was really into the gym and I was sleeping like 8-9 hours a day and just blah blah blah. So it might have been like, you know, several factors, I'm sure. But I just remember just like thinking, man, this bovine colostrum is giving me like insane pumps. I don't know why. I'm just going off. And
you didn't get any more. You just had that one bottle. And
I just had that one little tub, and then for some reason I don't even really know why I just never bought it again. It might have just been something simple as like money. Like,
yeah,
it's like
you should get some again and see if you get like all these years later.
But I remember thinking like I remember just having such a sick pump in the gym. I was in Trimwise gym in town, and I remember just almost being like. Almost like amazed myself. I remember just being like, oh, man, I've freaking got an insane pump.
I look gold.
I looked like a roider for about an hour. Do you know what I mean? And then I just sort of like went back down a little bit to a bit more like normal levels. But yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, I'll be interested. I'll do some research into like why bovine colostrum hasn't become such a hot supplement. Maybe it was too expensive to manufacture on like a broader scale. I don't know. So a lot of the companies that were doing it maybe thought it wasn't a good business investment for them, or I don't know, or maybe there was even some side effects found with it. I don't know. All I know is, as I said, it might have been circumstantial, but I had some freaking mad pumps on colostrum. But yeah, did you have any of the colostrum yourself?
No, I've definitely tried some of the breast milk, but the colostrum, no, I don't think so.
I guess
we were like so focused on, and like we had some struggle as well with like him not actually getting enough milk at first and stuff, and like and we had to use syringes, so we'd get the colostrum in like syringes, and we had to like put the syringes in his mouth to like. He was like, I put like my little finger in his mouth, so he'd get like a suck on, and then we'd put the syringe in the corner and like put it in like that. Yeah. And had to do that for like the first couple of days before he like properly got like a latch on and stuff. So yeah, that colostrum was like liquid gold. But I also heard apparently that like in a lot of cultures and that it's seen as like real dirty and like real like colostrum. Yeah, and it's like they won't let the babies have it and stuff at first. And I'm like, what the hell? It's got like the most like if you like actually put it under a microscope and stuff or whatever, it's like it's got all the nutrients that a baby would need at those initial stages to grow and that, and like why would that be like seen as a dirty thing or something?
I think
it's almost like
things, you know?
Common sense that the body is trying to produce what the baby needs.
Yeah,
it?
Definitely.
So you should be giving it whatever you are producing.
Yeah, and it's mad just like how crazy intelligent your body is. Even like the whole thing through the birth and that. Like I remember like when Meg was giving birth. And those bits towards the end where like it's really like powerful surges and stuff and like contractions, it's like it was like I could see every muscle in the whole of Meg's back that I didn't even know she had. You know, it was like her whole body was pushing that out. It wasn't just like the vagina pushing the baby out. It was literally like her whole body went into this primal like whoa, like getting out. I was like, whoa, this is cool.
Her whole body was temporarily possessed by the vagina.
Yes, her whole body was a vagina.
Yeah. Temporarily, her whole body became a vagina.
Yeah, that's really what it seemed like, you know.
Super Saiyan vagina.
What was that whole process like emotion-wise? Because obviously you were talking earlier before we even started about how it was like a real beautiful birth.
Yeah,
really good.
Because we were at home and stuff, it was like we had like different areas set up in the house where like Meg would just go between those areas with whatever's comfortable in that. But like as the contractions were coming more and everything, like there's a part that happens which is apparently called transition, which is like where like there's like the women will always like think that they can't do it anymore, and they're like literally like I can't do this anymore. And then after that, that's where like the big bit happens.
The
of,
Super
like,
Saiyan vagina.
Yeah. So I was seeing Meg, like I didn't know how long was going to be left and everything, but she got to that stage where she was like, oh no, I can't do this. Like, you know, this is like way too intense.
It's like when Goku was fighting Frieza. And you know there was like no way out, and Frieza's like, I'm only using 50% of my power right now. And Goku's like, I'm dying here.
Yeah,
you know.
So when I saw Meg like that, like at certain points, like that was scary for me. That was like that. I felt more emotional. I had a bit of a cry, or like a bit of tears.
Drew felt like Gohan watching it.
Yeah. No, seriously. And I thought, whoa, like because I knew that she had like a lot to go yet, you know, and everything, and that was more emotional for me than the baby coming out, which was crazy. Like the stage, like where it first coming out, which I thought was mad because, like, you know, and it's been like a.
How much were you actively involved? Like, you know, when you said that you were feeling really emotional about it, were you visibly emotional, or like were you giving her a pep talk? Because as I think I've said before, like I went into almost like weird, almost like sports coach mode. If you know what I mean, I was like pep talking her, and I was like, you can do this, like blah blah blah. I was being her, like, you know, I was being like super positive, like.
I wasn't like given, you know, like kind of doing that with Meg and that. It was more like I was kind of trying to make her as comfortable as possible, where she was like in quite a lot of positions. Like she was saying stuff like she had a Thames machine.
Yes.
You seen that? She had one of those.
Loved that.
Yeah, so she had that on her back. So like I would just be like be next to her.
For people
like,
that don't know
her.
what that is, that's like a machine, isn't it?
It's
got like a little dial.
Yeah,
and you can turn it up.
Yeah, this one had it. Yeah, it was like you stick it to your skin like electrode things.
Yeah.
And then this one had some buttons, so like you put it up by rather than like a dial.
But it's like
so
basically it's like 0 to 5 or 0 to 10.
About 3 was where she'd want it. So I would like watch for when a contraction would start, and then when it would start, I would put it up to 3, and then when it would stop, I would turn it off quickly because she didn't like it
it's
on.
Quite
when
intense,
it was like,
isn't it? Like, have you tried? Did you try it?
No, I didn't try it. No.
I tried it.
Did you?
Out of interest.
Oh mate,
man, it's intense. It's pretty
I remember
intense,
when I was younger, I had an ab belt that you would put on, and it would send these electric. So I can imagine it's something like that, like sending.
Yeah,
these,
but it's like if you let's put it this way, right? If you put it on somebody and then without them realizing you turn it up to full, that would be like a proper Dirty Sanchez style.
Yeah,
prank, or like
I remember
Jackass.
sometimes she was doing it, and then like I would forget to turn it off, and then she'd be like, turn it off. Like,
it's like you
sorry.
As you said, it's like electrotherapy, but you can feel the electricity, man. It's like you're like, oh, like it's crazy.
Am I right in saying that those are the machines they use, like if they were going to simulate on a man what like going through pregnancy would feel like? That's what they put on.
No, I don't think so.
It stimulates. It sends electrical
like
impulses into the muscles, and it will stimulate certain muscles. So Meg had it at the base of her back, there, and then like, when the contraction would happen, it's like apparently your body can only focus on one point of pain at a time.
That makes sense.
Something. So when you put the Thames machine on, it gives your body another sensation to focus on, so it detracts the focus a bit away from like the pain and contraction. Yeah. And it made sense in that. So yeah, it was having it on, but that bit. So that was like the only kind of pain relief she had or anything like that was. But then when she got in the pool, which is where where it got real. Yeah. You couldn't have the Thames machines on for that because like you couldn't have it in the pool and stuff. So literally, but then that was a crazy experience because Meg wasn't in the pool, and kind of anytime she had anything, like she couldn't do anything on her back. She had to be like leaning forward and stuff, and she was like on the edge of the pool, and I was kind of like sitting outside the pool, and she was like I was like holding her or like massaging her or whatever, like making her more comfortable and everything. And then like when she was having the when she was like making the noises and stuff, I was like chanting as well, and almost like being like a bit of an anchor for her.
That is the most Drew thing ever.
I can't believe it happened, but basically I started doing a bit of that, and Meg was saying like that's really helping me, like keep doing it and shit. And like when it was she was having the like surges, I was like going more intense, and she was saying that was like a bit of an anchor for her to like follow with the things, so that seemed to be helping. So I was at the front for the whole thing. I was like kind of in there with her in like
in the trenches.
Yeah, but like I thought I'd be like behind and watching the baby come out, and it was like no, I was like at the front, kind of like supporting her like that, and it was like a beautiful experience because it felt like I I got to really like witness like Meg and her power, like actually like pushing the baby out and stuff, and it was just like it was a powerful thing, like, you know, like she couldn't even like talk or anything like between and stuff, you know. It was just this primal like whoa, like crazy. Like I said, I could see like every muscle in her back all like and everything, and it was. Yeah, I thought it was amazing. Like it was an amazing thing to experience, but I thought it was gonna. Like, I was like really worried about it at first. Like, how am I gonna like? What am I gonna be like there and stuff? Or like, what am I gonna be able to do to help her in the situation? But it's like that thing of like whatever the situation needs, you just do, and it feels like that. So like what you're saying about like the prep talk and that, like it's something that you know will help the situation, so you do it. And it felt like that. There was a lot of stuff like throughout the day, just pillows and that, and she kept like shouting hips as well. So when she was on all fours, you could like push in her hips at the back, and that would give her some relief for it and stuff. So she was just like shouting hips, and then like me and Dyer would like go behind and be doing stuff like that. And
I remember like doing that with them. Just like for me, it seemed more it was like M's lower back, but I guess to be honest, that's, you know, hips, lower back, same region. But like just like she would just prop on that like almost like a really hard massage. And I remember thinking it was mad how hard she wanted me to do it. Yeah. Because like if I did that to her normally, like when I was like, she'd be like thinking like, why are you being so rough? Yeah. Like, she'd be like harder, and I'd be like,
and with the hips thing, it was like she wanted me to like push in like as hard as I could in.
I remember thinking like, oh, I'm worried about like hurting her.
Yeah.
I'm worried about like, you know, like doing some damage to some bone or something, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like,
cool.
Yeah. But it just goes to show obviously how much of like an ordeal it is, you know, for you know, shout out to all the mums out there. You know,
we've all got one.
Yeah, we've all got one. We all have, you know, mothers to thank, you know, and you know, it's a hell of an ordeal, and we should all respect the mothers of the world, man.
Yeah, and Meg says she's like, hands down, it is the hardest thing she's ever done in her life. Yeah. Like you know, like just that experience. And straight away she's like, I hope Ruben's all right with being an only child, because I'm not going through that again. But then it's like almost like days later now she's like already, you know, that I think that feeling passes quite quickly, because they do have more babies than one a lot of the time. But
I think it's a lot of it's to do with hormones, isn't it? And they often say, don't they, with mums, it's like even if they feel like that, once the child starts growing out of almost like that newborn stage, and it becomes more of like a toddler, you know, like actually walking around, like talking and stuff, like doesn't look like a baby anymore. If women then suddenly see infants again, they always get
the hormones kick in again.
What's it called when they? Oh, there's like a word for it, isn't it? It's like a simple term. They brooding. They get broody. Yeah. They get broody. You know, they suddenly have this weird thing like. Actually, I know I've been moaning about everything for the last like 2 years, but I actually want another one. Actually,
yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, cool. You know, like it's cool.
Man.
It's amazing how natural it is, isn't it? I mean, that just seems like the main word for it is natural. Like like you were saying, the fact that you go through a certain point where you don't think you can do it anymore, and then after that is when it gets real. Yeah. It's crazy that the brain stimulates that in so many different ways. Like I remember reading recently that if you like feel like you're dying at the end of a run, the chances are you're probably only at about 40% of your capacity of what you can do. And it's amazing how much further the brain can
that's
actually
why they always say, like, mind over matter, isn't it? Mind over matter.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important, I think, you know, I think it's why it's important to, like, obviously always be aware of that and know that, you know,
there's some more in the tank.
Yeah, you're in charge, really, like, of your body, but your body doesn't want you really to know that. You know,
I remember, was it, I don't know whether it was on a pod that you've done with one of the guests, or someone was talking about in the SAS and or in the American equivalent, and literally it was about jumping in a or it might have been a podcast I watched where a part of it they had to jump into the ocean after they'd done, and then they got out with all their kit on and everything, and then they'd have to jump in the ocean again, and they had to do it like 3 times, and a lot of people gave up after saying, because it was like ice cold and they just didn't want to do it again. And
do you know what? I don't think that was a pod that with a guest that we had on, but I feel like I've watched the same pod.
Yeah, it's a Jocko one. I think it's a Jocko one. Yeah, and literally he's talking about the mindset, and the reason that the thing that got him through it compared to a lot of people is like he knew that he could just do it, like mentally he could do that, like get out, but then the thought of them jumping in again in all of their wet gear with how freezing they were, like a lot of them just dropped out at that point. It was like enough was enough.
A lot of it's like pain tolerance, but pain and like almost like how hard you can push yourself in physical situations, I see it's like the same thing. I feel people get very overwhelmed by like, say, fear of pain, but if you can almost like not be so afraid of pain, that's like quite a freeing, you know, it's like quite like a freeing thing, you know.
And always remember that pain is temporary. It's not like a permanent thing.
Yeah, I mean,
most of the time,
yeah,
in most of the circumstances.
I think you always want to have like a, obviously be realistic. So obviously, I think you should always look after your body in certain ways. So obviously, don't do anything that could potentially cause you like paralysis, because you ain't going to recover from that. You know what I mean? But I think, yeah, like at the end of the day, if you're afraid of like a flesh wound, like what's a flesh wound? Do you know what I mean? Like a flesh wound, like, you might be left with a scar, big deal. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? Or anything like that, like.
Yeah, and like your body's tolerance for it, like how some people can almost like, just tolerate it more and just turn like, or just know that it's a sensation and something that you can still ignore with your brain.
Well, think about when Pat Mack said when we had him on the pod, and he was saying about how he was as part of special forces, he had to learn how to do frog jumping, they called it. Essentially like parachuting out of a plane. But I think that I'm sorry if I'm wrong about this, Pat, or any special forces that are listening. I think essentially you almost deploy your parachute like the moment you like leave the plane, but then his chute got caught up in the plane, and then he was like slamming into the side of the frickin' airplane, and the cord got caught around his shoulder, and then where it was like it essentially like became like a tourniquet on his thing, and then with such force went down his arm that it ripped his freaking bicep and everything off the bone into his forearm.
Like how sorry.
That's cool.
How fudged is that?
It's insane.
Yeah, and then he said he literally was just like slamming into the side of the helicopter while it was like 1,000 feet or whatever, thinking, "Oh my god, I'm going to die. I'm going to die."
I remember you said to him, like, he was like, "What was going on in your head?" And that, and he's just like, "Oh, just pure terror."
He was like pure terror. Yeah, man. And then obviously, just like luckily like survived, managed to like get down, and then just basically spent like freaking 6 months in the hospital. But then but look at him now.
I can't believe that your body can make a recovery from your bicep being ripped off like that.
How did he get out of that situation?
Do you know what? I can't remember.
Yeah, I remember him saying that he just did the shoot. When he got off. Like when he finally detached, he had to do the parachute still. Like the whole drop down to the floor and everything. He said he could remember just getting at the bottom and just like shaking and crying and all that.
But he spent his time in hospital, got his bicep reattached or whatever.
Because he was so young as well. He said it just healed like quite quickly.
And then as soon as he was recovered, obviously just went straight back into special forces training. And then within a few years, he was like one of America's like main special forces, like behind like Soviet Union lines, like working like James Bond style in like Soviet Germany and stuff like that. Like,
God, those stories about in the Mercedes, they had the big kitted out Mercedes, getting 4x4 getting chased.
That was like proper James Bond style, in like James Bond movies where they've got like little gadgets and stuff. He said it was
like camera equipment all in there, like filming everything and stuff.
And there were times that he'd get found out, and they'd like be chasing him on. They'd be like literally like tanks and freaking like army motorbikes, like chasing him through the forest, and they'd be like going down dirt trails in this Mercedes and that, just trying to like bomb it back over Allied territory before they caught up with them. Because if they got caught up with them, they would have been like killed in the woods. Yeah, they'd have been like strung up and just hung up in the forest. Like,
madness, isn't it?
Jesus.
Yeah, no trial or anything like that. Just take it into the forest and like hung like on a branch. Like,
damn, son.
Yeah, that's crazy stuff, man.
Did you ask in the pod what his sort of motivations were to
join special forces?
Yeah.
From my memory, he just said he went up to army recruiters like straight after, as soon as he was done with high school.
He said he loved the posters, didn't he? He was just like,
he loved the posters.
Cool as
well, he said that he was a really nerdy kid, wasn't he? And he said he was almost like quite a effeminate kid, which I thought was really cool because comes across such a masculine guy, and he obviously is a masculine guy, very good role model for men. But he was very honest, and there's no very
BS. Creative as a child.
Yeah, there's no BS and there's no posturing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think like some guys they try very hard almost maybe to come across as masculine. It seems a bit cringe maybe. I think we all have seen guys like that. From time to time, it's a bit silly, really. Do you know what I mean? Just be yourself or whatever. But he admitted that he was quite like an effeminate little kid, quite like very creative, but like nerdy, skinny. But then he got really into wrestling in high school. Got his first victory, and he said the moment he got his first victory, he was like, I became addicted to that feeling. Became this amazing state wrestler, like in the US, and then just started seeing all the army posters. Yeah, Drew said, it's like heroes and stuff, and he's like, like jack guys with machine guns.
Cool.
Like all the posters.
I love that.
The American propaganda for an army is so freaking cool. It's so good. It's like it knows how to speak to young men. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be like jacked guys with machine guns and beers and just these beautiful women, and he said that he just saw that and thought that is the most cool metal thing I've ever seen. That's like so metal.
I want to be that guy.
Yeah, and at the same time he was getting into like heavy metal was just coming out, and he was like loving that, getting into that, as had already been into like rock music and stuff, and was just like, yeah, this is me, like, this is what I want, the American dream of just like heavy metal, just being like this almost like G.I. Joe character. So he just went up to the army recruiters and was just like, what's the hardest thing I can go into? And they were like, I can't remember exactly what it's called. Like, is it like Delta Force or whatever? And he was just like, yeah. They was just like, you can go into this one. And he was like, I want to do that one then. And then just straight away just jumped into the deep end. Next thing you know, he was just doing all this crazy training. And and he said another one, didn't he? He said he was like running downhill, like in this training, when he's had this big backpack on, he was running down this like cliff, and then he what was it? Was he broke his ankle?
Or shin or something? Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I think it was his ankle. Like he rolled his ankle or something, and then he was in hospital for like 2 months because of that as well. But but that just goes to show. Do you know what I mean? It's like, as I said, as long as you're not afraid of that, almost you're just embracing the process, then you know what I mean. You can recover because those wounds weren't bad enough. Even the plane one, which sounds savage, even just the smacking against the aeroplane, like 1,000
So I remember
feet
he
or
said
whatever.
there was these things like imagine like a carabiner, and they were on this like pole. So you would like be attached to that pole, and you would run out, and then when you jumped off, it would like pull your parachute out as you jumped off, if you know what I mean. Right. So it'd go like, and then jump out and be like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But he said like when Iz did that, it didn't detach. So he just like hung off the end of it and just started smacking off the back of the plane rather than it just like detaching itself automatically. Like, oh my god.
But you look at him nowadays, and what's Pat Mack? He's like he's almost 60 now. He's like basically 60. And he's freaking, man, you wouldn't have ever thought he had those injuries.
Yeah.
He's a machine, and he's like legit.
On those bands, he's always on those bands, isn't he?
Yeah, he loves his resistance bands. He loves his resistance bands. But I mean, he does all sorts of stuff. He does so many. He does calisthenics. He does kettlebells. He does barbells, dumbbells, bands. He does all sorts of stuff. Running. Yeah, all sorts of stuff.
Do you know what I love about that? It's so like beautifully simple of a motivation in a way. Like I feel like a lot of the times when you build yourself up to maybe even, if you've got a big task ahead of you and you don't feel like you can pull it off, you almost feel like you need that motivation of, I need there to be this ultimate reason to like let me push past. Exactly. Yeah. Almost to let you tap into that Super Saiyan potential, like we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
But the fact that your reasoning can be as simple as, that looks cool. I want to do that. And then still push yourself past that mental limit just for that reason.
Get so much fortitude to be able to like do it like with just the thing.
I think some people are like born with it.
Yeah.
I think it is something you can cultivate to a point. But I think some people are just born with
naturally
it.
More of it.
That's pretty insane.
And I think you can almost like sense it in some people when you talk to someone like Pat Mack, or you see people like, I don't know, people like Brock Lesnar come to mind. Do you know what I mean? You just see them, they're just like they're a slightly different type of human being. Like they are not concerned about things that most mortals are concerned about. Like things that would terrify most people are like a day in the office to them.
Even like listening to the podcast, we were talking a bit about it earlier. Like it was Lex Friedman and Donald Trump. I listened to that podcast on the way down, and one of the questions that Lex asked to Trump was about like sports people and some, because he's really into his golf and stuff, and like and
he looks like the ultimate golfer, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he looks like
he's an amazing golfer, and he's been around a lot of like the top athletes in the world, and he said like, what is a winner to you and stuff, like what do they have that's different and that, and it's like, it's this like unwavering dedication to want to be great, or to what they like thinking it. He's like saying they think in a different way, like and they're all different, all completely different, but this like they've just got this extra source of like wanting to win.
And
or,
I
like,
think that's the thing,
like,
is wanting to do it, because I think a lot of people, they want to know what the secret is to say have like the quote unquote motivation to do something. It's not motivation at all. No, it's a want.
Yeah, it's a desire,
if you don't want to do it,
you're not going to find the motivation to do it.
Exactly. It's like a lot of people often say, a lot of people that I sort of like look up to and follow and stuff, that say it's like, look, it's not motivation is useless, because human beings get motivated, once a month if you're lucky. And then that will go. And if you're relying on motivation, then you're never going to succeed. What you need is you need to be dedicated to something. You need to be dedicated, but also you need to want it. And if you don't want it,
you're not going to be dedicated.
No. And you either find a way to want it, or you need to move on. Find something else. Find something else.
I think it's amazing how it comes in so many different avenues and so many different examples. Like, to just use a great sporting example, Messi and Ronaldo. Like, Ronaldo is this sort of like, in your face athlete, always talking about how, he wants to be the best. Everything, the other day, even now, where he's playing in Saudi Arabia, before he takes a free kick, he's like speaking to himself, I am the best in the world, before he shoots and stuff. He's not, but anyway. Messi, on the other hand, couldn't be more different from that. You know, he's not really a personality, doesn't really speak in interviews, seems quite quiet, seems quite sort of keeping to himself. But at the same time, they clearly both have that desire and that want to be able to reach the best of their ability. But it's just amazing how that can portray itself in two completely opposite portrayals.
Yeah, another one as well is that, which is quite like that. Like in golf, I've been, since we had our match, I've been like watching loads of videos and stuff. And I love. Do you know John Daly?
Yeah.
So John
Is
Daly,
he quite an old American guy?
Oh man,
he's
hilarious. So cool.
Man.
He's like the hick of like of
He's who I'd like.
Yeah, man. Yeah. He golfs with no shoes on and like and
got
drinks,
like a cigarette in his mouth all round.
He'll have like 12 packets of M&Ms as he's going round and like be like half cut from the night before. And he says about this story, like, because he was like out a lot on the same time as like Tiger Woods and stuff, like real in his heyday and everything. And Tiger Woods is almost like the opposite. Like, say John Daly is like, he's like he would go out with Kid Rock the night before and drink like 2 bottles of Jack Daniels and then turn up for his tea time with no sleep and still shoot like an insane round of golf and everything. So he basically like did that like with a one, and he beat like Tiger in this in this tournament. And the night before as well, he was like getting half cut in like where they're all having the food and stuff, and he plays guitar a bit as well. And like Tiger Woods could see that John Daly was like pretty half cut, and he went over to him and he said, "Oh yeah, and in a minute you got to go up on stage and you got to sing. I can't remember what the song was like to the." And like John Daly just did it, and he got like a standing ovation and stuff. And then that day afterwards, he went out and he beat Tiger, but he'd just been getting wasted all that night and everything as well. Yeah. And he said it messed with like Tiger's brain a bit because he's so dedicated and he's so like. He's so like meticulous and with practice wouldn't drink anything like that.
Go to sleep early, train.
Yeah, but like John Daly was opposite, but he still went out because like with this like determination to win and stuff. Like John Daly definitely has that. Like he works hard, like when he's playing and like for practicing and all that kind of stuff. Apparently, he does it a lot still. Yeah, but he has fun. He has a lot of fun as well. Like you know.
Yeah,
it makes me beg the question. Sorry, just on this. With someone like John Daly, that's such a great example of someone who doesn't sort of commit themselves fully all the time off the court. But if he did, would he have even been any better? That's the question that brings into my mind, because I almost feel like that's the way he plays the sport, and that was his way of reaching his potential.
Yeah, I think it reminds me in sort of because I follow MMA loads and I always have done it. The 2 examples I'd use of what you guys are saying is like you had a lot of people think is the best heavyweight champion of all time, Fedor Emelianenko. He was a super stoic, very polite Russian guy. Who was like a savage. Like as soon as the matches started, like there are people.
Is that the one that stopped because his mum wanted him to stop?
No, that's Khabib Nurmagomedov. But Fedor was a bit from just the generation before. But a lot of people still to this day think he's the best heavyweight champion of all time. He was like legendary from like the Pride days, where like Japan, basically the mafia in Japan owned this organization called Pride. And Rampage Jackson talks about this a lot on like podcasts and stuff. And he said it was like crazy. Like you'd go. Like the Yakuza freaking ran Pride, and you'd go to like certain things, and even with the like best MMA fighters in the world would be like, right, don't talk fun, don't talk. You see that guy over there? Don't like take the mick out of him or try and be all like ballsy or like tough guy with that guy, because like you know he could.
We're
like,
in gangster land.
Like he'll take you into the back room and he'll like get a load of 10 guys to like he'll essentially like chop your finger off. He'll get 10 guys to put pin you down and cut your finger off. But anyway, during that era and slightly afterwards, the best heavyweight in the world was called Fedor Emelianenko, and he was like soft spoken, completely polite. He never gave anyone smack talk ever. You know, never any smack talk. He was super quiet. He would go up to his matches just like smooth face, with touch gloves ever. There was no like sense of aggression until like the bell rang, and then there are other like some of the greatest heavyweights of his era, like Minotauro Nagiro and that said that like when he fought Fedor for the first time, he said that he was like it was like a force of nature that he'd never felt, just like coming at him. But then before and after the bell, it was like
Switched it off.
And he was like a family man, really quaint family man. He was like the fame and the everyone saying he was the best in the world never went to his head. He had the same wife like at the end of his career, at the beginning of his beginning of his career. Just this nice wife, had his children. Was a very quiet, stay-at-home family man. Didn't ever go drinking. Didn't ever like get involved in drugs or anything like that. But was just this absolute force when he was fighting, and it was so dedicated to training. But then you have other people like a more modern day athlete, granted coming towards the end of his career a bit more, like John Jones, who a lot of people think is the best MMA fighter of all time nowadays, and that's certainly a pretty safe bet. But he's almost like the guys that you're talking about, like. He's failed drug tests for cocaine. He's failed
party boy.
Yeah. He's had DUIs because he's been caught like a week before a fight. He's been pulled over by the cops for like reckless driving. It's turned out he's freaking wasted at the wheel of like a freaking Lamborghini somewhere. Do you know what I mean? He's had like hit and runs and stuff like that, and. Just this crazy, cocaine, booze. He said that he's gone into championship matches and like literally 2 days before that he's been like partying until like 5 a.m. just doing like all these crazy stuff and that. But he'll go in and he'll smash people. But I've heard on podcasts with people that have trained with him in camp, and they would say that like they'd be there from say they'd be treating it at that level, like a lot of people would be treating it like a normal 9 to 5. So you turn up at the gym in the morning, and obviously that you'd be doing lots of different stuff all day. It's not that you'd just be sparring all day, but you'd have like say your strength and conditioning, and then you stop for half an hour, drink, have some food or whatever, chat to your coaches. Then you do like some jiu-jitsu for a while. Then you do like some sparring in the cage, and you do like rounds and things like that. And then you do something else, blah, 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 in the afternoon. Whereas he said that John would like roll in at like 11 a.m., 12 p.m., usually hungover. He would stay in the gym for like 2 hours, but then he would arrive, and then he would basically get in like the octagon, like the mock octagon, and then he would basically pick out like 5 or 6 of the best guys that were in the gym that day, and then he would fight them all like back to back, and then that was his training for the day.
Whoa.
So he was only there for like 2 hours.
So
that he would do like and he would do like non-stop rounds. So he would rotate. So he would be facing them non-stop, but say he would face like one guy for 5 minutes. And then they would bring in the other guy, and then he'd fight him. So these guys were fresh. They were going on rotation.
He's doing like gladiator training.
Yeah, so they were like completely fresh every time, and they were like the best guys in the gym. And he would just be smashing all of them, and he would basically do that for like 2 hours, and he'd just leave. So it was like, a bit like what you were saying about that guy. Was it John Daly? John Daly, yeah. It's like he in his own way, like that's savage, man. That's brutal training. So it's like you can't. He's obviously insanely gifted, and his style of training is like brutal and very unique. But like other than that, do you know what I mean? He didn't necessarily he wasn't really meticulous or anything like that. It was just like this crazy animal. It's almost like this animal. It's just channeling it into something.
Yeah,
it's funny that their like drinking style and lifestyle outside of it is also brutal, but in a different sense as well, isn't it? It's very all in, no matter what they do.
It's almost like, and it's a bit like what we were saying earlier about how some people are just born different. It's almost like some people are just animals, man. And everyone knows what I mean by that. Like some people are just animals. You're channeling into
drink
that.
And stuff. It's like he has these. He's got his own brands now, and because he's like the bad boy of golf, he's got these cocktail drinks called Good Boy.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And he's like, I couldn't drink Diet Cokes anymore. They got too much gas, so I got these, and they're like 4% a thing, and he'll have like 40 of them throughout the day,
with his like full on mullet and everything as well.
And he's got this golf cart, and is it Brian DeChambeau?
Bryson DeChambeau.
Bryson DeChambeau. Yeah, he's like, I didn't know about him, but I've been watching
the golf scientist.
Yeah,
people call him.
He's like, I think he's like 30 years old, but he's insanely good. But he played a match with John Daly, and I watched it on YouTube. John Daly's literally got no shoes on, and he's got this golf cart. And in the front of the golf cart, you open the lid up the front of the golf cart, like almost like the engine bay of a car, and he's just got like 40 of those cocktails, and he's just drinking them as they go around. But Bryson DeChambeau doesn't drink. He's like really straight edge, straight cut and that. So he's just got him some like chocolate milk. He's like, you chug on this, it's gonna make you good. Still, you chug on this chocolate milk. So Brian DeChambeau's like necking some chocolate milk, and he's just drinking loads of cocktails as they go around. And it's like, mate, this guy is so cool, just golfing with no shoes on.
What a legend, man. Yeah, as I said, I think like if you are like that much of an animal, it's like whatever you channel that animalisticness into. There's a lot of energy that comes with being an animal.
Even like people, what they say about John Daly's swing as well. Like you come up like only a certain amount, and they say if you go further than that, it's almost like counterproductive. Like you can't
overswing.
the overswing. But John Daly like overswings the shit. He bends his arm and he overswings the club to like down here, and then
Does he?
He would hit the ball like some of back in his heyday, like
it's like he developed his own style.
Yeah, and it worked, but it's unconventional, like him as well, And
did he ever explain like his rationale behind that, or did he not even have it? That was just his style?
I think that's just how he just sort of wanted to play golf.
Yeah,
that's how I'm going to do it.
He started he just got his dad's clubs and would just go and practice on the thing. And they say it's a lot like a baseball swing. So with a baseball swing, you'll round out and you'll do that. And they're saying that I think he must have been
swings a golf club like a
almost
baseball.
like more like baseball
bat,
than like a baseball bat, like with his thing. So that is it. When you're with a baseball bat, you'll come right round. But he almost does that with the golf club. But
interesting.
They say it's crazy.
Mate, he's such a nutter. He's playing baseball with a bunch of golfers.
Yeah. Happy Gilmore.
Yeah. That's great. I think you get people like that though, like sometimes, and they're really important. It's a bit like Dave Grohl with the drums. Like people that will break norms. But it's almost like there are accepted ways of doing things, whether it is like in music or sport, and then somebody like Dave Grohl or him will come along, and it's like, it's like Dave Grohl said, didn't he? He taught himself how to play drums, and then he thought like, oh well, I guess I'm at the point now where I should probably have some lessons if I'm going to take this thing real seriously. He had his first lesson, I think, with a jazz drummer. And then the guy was like, my advice to you, and it's probably really good advice. He's probably lucky that he actually had like an instructor that said this to him. But he basically said, my advice to you would be to just carry on doing what you're doing. Don't have lessons, because if he did things the conventional way, Dave would have had to have unlearnt what he'd already learnt over those first couple of years, and then relearned. And that would have taken so long, and that might have like affected his confidence and his natural playing style. And so he was just like, no, just don't worry about it. Just carry on doing what you're doing, sort of thing. So he has a very weird and unique and unconventional style. But you listen to Dave Grohl drumming,
it's awesome.
And
he's
you're
got
like,
rhythm, man.
And it just, the way he just batters the drums, and it's so unique, but it's so good.
Yeah.
You can't say like, oh well, it's not good because he's not doing it conventionally. Like, no, it's good, so it's good.
I'm almost a bit annoyed. Like, it almost happened to me with golf as well, but I did change it, and to my detriment. And it's like I had some lessons with a pro at Canton Golf Course when I was like real young, like 15 or something. And I did an interlocking grip, and I had like quite a strong grip.
So is that like just like that? Is it? So all your fingers are inside the others.
So just your
It's like your thumb and your little finger, isn't it?
Well, that finger.
Oh, right.
Is it?
Oh, what, your index finger and your little finger, is it? Like this?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't even think how I hold a golf club now.
It's one.
I think it's that.
Is
it like that?
I think it's like that.
It's that finger and your little finger.
So your index finger and your little finger.
Yeah,
right?
when you're holding the club, they kind of interlock like that. If you
I'm
can
with
imagine.
you. I'm with you. Hopefully, all the people that are listening and not watching understand that. I've got my.
There's like baseball bat grip, which is just both together like that. Interlock, which is like that, or there's overlap, which is where your finger kind of goes over the top. That middle bit.
I interlock.
You interlock. Yeah. So I did interlock, and then I had quite a strong grip, so I could like hook the ball quite well and stuff. And the pro at the time, he told me to change my stance and also change my grip. He's like, you don't want to interlock, you want to overlap. So I do that now. But then like some of the best golfers, like Tiger Woods, I think John Daly, like Bryson DeChambeau and that, they all interlock, and they hit the ball like so far on that, and I'm almost like now, like I wish I didn't ever change it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
so do you think that you've like affected the power of your swing because you haven't got that kinetic chain?
Yeah, and like I just think it was a better grip for me because that's how I started, and it was what I did naturally. But then when I had the lesson with the pro, he's like, you want to change your grip, you want to do this, you want to do that, and like I changed it all, and like I'm still playing now, but I've got like a wicked slice and stuff, and I'm like, I wonder if. Because he said about the strength of my grip as well. He's like, you want it over...
Can you explain what a slice is for people that aren't...
A slice is, so you get a spin on the ball. A hook is where it will go... If you're right-handed, it's where the ball will go left, curl left.
Right.
But a slice is where it will curl right.
And can you explain in layman's terms how you would do that to a ball? Because I expect a lot of people, like myself, listening... that think this is interesting but aren't really into golf. We think, how do you hit a ball in a way that makes that happen?
So it's the way of your swings. There's a few things. So when you do your swing, if your swing comes across the ball too much, like imagine like the ball straight in front of you, when it's coming round, if it comes across the ball like to the left of you too much, rather than say the club face is straight like that. Rather than it being straight, it's coming across the ball like this. Then you'll you put side spin on the ball, which makes it curl, basically. So I was doing that with my swing, like quite naturally, which has given me this big curl, which you don't want because I'm always off on the. Yeah.
It's crazy how much of a natural thing it is. Like pretty much all intermediate amateur players will have a slice.
Yeah, it's a really easy thing to do, but you don't want to do it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so you want to get the club head face.
So I'm glad because when you said you had a crazy slice, I thought that was like a good thing.
No,
I'm glad that you've cleared that up.
Slice is like a really annoying shot that just goes off to the right and then leaves you in loads.
Like I think we would both be the same. Where if we were at like a driving range and we're just trying to hit it as hard as we could, we'd hit it outside of the driving range to the right.
And I would. Yeah,
like that far right.
It'd be over the fence.
It's interesting that it's to the right because in my mind, as somebody that knows nothing about golf, I would have thought if I'm standing here like this, hitting a ball, which to me would be the natural way, as it's the same with you guys, yeah? I would have thought you'd naturally hit it left, not right. Yeah. That's really weird.
Is when it's left.
My problem is I used to come down like way over the top. So I'd stand almost like way too close to the ball.
Yeah.
So like
you guys are actually making me want to play golf now.
Oh man,
really
I never thought so fun.
Yeah. So I'd like come down like that, but I think because I'd do that, I'd again put like side spin on the ball. Yeah. And it would like a lot of it is just how you how you open the club face.
Yeah.
But it's such a particular sport. We've said this before. The problem is with hitting a slice is you don't know what you're doing half the time. I might open it 0.2 degrees to the right.
That's the thing though, isn't it? It's knowing what you're doing. Yeah. That's what will cause you to then get better.
And like most people the speed of the club is 90 miles per hour plus, like, you know, on most people's like strong golf swings. And like a fraction of a degree change in the club face at that speed creates a massive change in the ball. So like, you know, there's something that could be like a degree difference could make your ball fly over. Like
it's such fine margins.
Yeah, and even pros. I watched this video on it last night, and there's like elements of randomness built into golf. So even the most like crazy professional, amazing golfers, they'll have this triangle that they need to hit within. They know that their ball's going to go somewhere within that triangle. And like in this video, it was saying like most of the best players play to that. They won't aim directly in the middle of where they want to go. They'll take into account this triangle and they'll just point it in that direction. And they'll know that even one of their mishit shots will end up safe. If you know what I mean? But it's like weird, like even the most professional that you can be and like how insanely good you can be at golf, there's still that element of randomness built into it. Like, you know,
and
like,
I think
it's funny as well, like on just the theme of like naturalness, the best player in the world right now is a guy called Scotty Scheffler.
Right.
He's been like the #1 for over a year now. I think he wins a lot.
He's insane.
Insane. But his like technique, he has this thing that they call the Scotty Shuffle. Yeah, the Scotty Shuffle, where he almost like falls over after he hits it.
He hits the ball and like does this like weird little thing with his foot. Where
he like almost like jumps and like falls over after he hits it. And
but
it
it's because
like
when he
so
was
weird.
so young, when he was a little kid, before he learnt properly, his dad gave him some plastic clubs, like some. And that was the way that he hit him, and he would like move his feet. Right. So when he got lessons with a pro, a bit like what you were saying about the drummer, they were like, okay, I can help you with your swing, but with whatever you're doing with your feet there, that's working.
He could see that he was really good, even if it was weird. Like, No, I think that's really good. I think I love with any physical endeavor, regardless, as I said, whether it's like music or any sport or like working out athletics. I love all the little nuances. Like, do you remember when we did that axe throw in? I loved it was so interesting, like analysing yourself as you were doing it and analysing other people and the guy there that ran the axe throw in place. And it's like, at first, me and Josh were like both freaking lobbing it, and we were both really good with our accuracy, but we weren't getting the axes
overthrowing
in.
It almost.
Yes,
yeah.
And then the guy like watching us, it's like he obviously knew enough about it, and he figured out, and he said, "You're overthrowing." He said, which is a good problem to have.
An extra spin.
But he said, he said essentially you're spinning it like further and faster than everyone else. So the thing that will remedy that is stand 1 foot closer to the board than everyone else in your group. And as soon as me and Josh did that, we was like, boom.
Yeah.
Because it was like we were spinning it almost like too fast.
Yeah.
With obviously Josh
you
being
would get an extra half a rotation to
Josh's lumberjack skills and all of my like gym skills and that. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, we were just like...
That was weird with me. I started really strong with that, and I was like hitting the thing every time in that, and I got worse as it progressed.
I think that just goes to show, though, and I think it happens to all of us, or at least the vast majority of people, just the power of psychology. Because I think it started bothering you, and then it became more of an issue.
Yeah.
And I think out of frustration, sometimes then you were probably just lobbing it, even if you're not, you're almost like thinking like you're frustrated, so you lob it, and then obviously if you just do that, if you just like lob something out of frustration, it's probably not going to go the way you want it to.
Yeah.
But then you get more and more and more and more frustrated. I don't know. That's what I reckon.
That's the thing with golf as well. It's one of the most mentally frustrating games
I hate it.
in the
I
world.
hate golf.
You hate it, but you love it.
I love it, but I hate it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm someone that whatever sport I play, my mental game is like... it's all dependent on that every single game I play. And the amount of times I've gone into a game just in the wrong like mental space to achieve
Psychology.
what I'm trying to.
They say, don't they? Like,
and I'm done.
Where I've like been a big fan of like athletics and different sort of, whether it's like MMA or weightlifting and stuff like that for years, and I've listened to so many podcasts on it, and like pretty much all the top guys say like 70% of it is mental, if not more, and a lot of them have gone to like sports psychologists, like coaches and stuff, and then have completely redefined their game. And it's nothing to do with what they're doing in training or in the gym or anything. It's all to do with their mindset. I remember listening to Chael Sonnen, who was one of the best middleweights in the MMA world for several years. He had a notorious, a high-profile feud with Anderson Silva for years.
Great trash talker.
I think the best trash talker in MMA history, and almost beat Anderson Silva when Anderson Silva was in his prime. But he said that he got into such a slump at one stage that he would actually find a way to lose. Not consciously, obviously. Like, he didn't want to lose, but it was like his brain
Subconsciously.
His brain subconsciously found a way. He would clutch defeat from the jaws of victory, which is the complete opposite of what you think you want to do.
Yeah.
And it was even like he would often lose to like the same move. He had this weird thing in his head about like how he didn't want to lose to a triangle choke, which is just like a type of jiu-jitsu submission hold, and then he lost like it was like a crazy amount of matches to it. But it's like his body naturally, out of the fear of not wanting it, somehow got in a position where it would be easy for people to put him into it, which seems so mental, doesn't it? It seems so mental.
It's like the power of your brain, like whether it's positive or negative, it's almost going to have the same the same effect. So that negative thought is going to be as powerful as a positive thought. Or like, but then
you have other stories of people like Bear Grylls when he had that parachuting injury when he was in the military. And he broke his back in 2 places. His parachute didn't deploy, and then his backup parachute didn't deploy, or either that or it deployed, but he was like 20 feet off the ground or something. So it was like it took a bit of the brunt off. But anyway, he broke his back in 2. I think it was 2 different places. It might have been 3, but I think it was 2. Definitely more than 1.
Oh, that must have been a bump. That must have winded him.
Well, I think he was at the time he was completely paralysed at the time. He went to hospital and the doctors said, "Yeah,
probably not going to walk again."
Yeah, you're not. Well, I think they said you're not going to walk again. But he said that basically he just didn't accept that. So he said that he stayed in the hospital for like a month just trying to wriggle like his big toe, and then he finally accomplished that.
Sounds like Kill Bill.
Yeah, basically. And then after he'd done it with his big toe, he tried to do the other big toe, and then the toe next to your big toe, and then once it was all of the toes, his foot, and then just gradually worked his way up. And then within a year...
That mental fortitude.
Within a year, he became the youngest man ever to climb Mount Everest. Within a year of him breaking his back.
Yeah,
that is like
crazy
mental positivity. But I think one thing that you can say about religion, and I find religion fascinating... He, I can't remember if he was religious before or after, if he was before or because of this, but he basically just like became Christian. And... regardless of what you think about religion, and this is proven in studies,
you got faith.
Yes. And if you think that there is like something that, you've got fate, there's like a fate or a destiny for you, or you think that like, there is this higher power on your side.
It will make it true.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? For you,
And I remember hearing some crazy statistic, like something like 90% of champions in sport and Olympic gold medalists are religious. 90%. But obviously there's nowhere near 90% of the population in the Western world that are actually religious. Like, especially in the UK, probably not even 50%, like so many people are just like, atheists nowadays or agnostic, whatever. But it just goes to show, like, but that's because almost like with an atheism, there's almost like a
pessimism.
Yeah, almost. I don't want to call it pessimism, but there's like you're almost like too realistic.
Your belief has to come fully within yourself then.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you're religious, it can come from an external place.
Yeah.
and you don't know, that is built up for you.
Yeah, and I think that's why, and I think this almost reminds me also of the topic of ego, which I think is very, very interesting because we've talked, and I know we've talked about this before, Drew, about how ego isn't inherently good or bad. Like people think ego, I think you necessarily hear the word ego and you think bad because you think of egotistical people and keeping your ego in check, which is obviously very, very important. People definitely shouldn't let their egos get carried away with them. But if you have too low of an ego, if your ego's at a sink and then you have like anxiety or like confidence issues, then that's just as bad, but in a different way, isn't it? And I think ego can be very powerful and it can be very good as long as it's kept in check. So yeah, I think like believe in yourself. Don't think you're better than other people, but believe in yourself. And I remember when I used to play like rugby when I was younger, even, and I almost felt like even though I was necessarily like directly religious in terms of like I believed in a specific religion, like I guess I was brought up more as like a pagan, but like I believed when I was playing rugby that there was nobody. I felt like, and this is a very religious thing, I felt like I was born to be the most physically dominant person on the pitch. I didn't believe that I was born to be the best kicker or the best thrower, but I felt that when I played rugby in my year, there was nobody else. If I wanted to tackle somebody, there was nobody that could stop me.
That's some good fuel to have in your tank.
Yes.
Like,
and I believed it with every fibre of my being. And as a result...
Which makes it true.
And it was true. And as a result, it was true. There was nobody in our year, even the guys that were like my size and even heavier than me, like I would, in terms of just pure physical domination, that sort of like, I guess almost like the wrestling aspect of rugby, there was nobody that could touch me. Nobody.
I think it's an important thing for people to be able to build as well. Like that is something you really can instill in yourself, whether it be for sport or even outside of sport, just for confidence in itself. I know growing up, I've never been like an unconfident person, but I sort of went through that same mental belief, not within a sporting aspect, but just within myself to believe, whatever it is, I can do it, I can achieve it through, building up my ego and trying to become a more confident person. And it's definitely made me a lot more confident of a person where now I believe if I go into a situation, I can kind of achieve whatever I want to achieve it is on that thing. Whether that's a correct statement or not, I think it's good to take these things head on. And I do believe that is something that you can manufacture for yourself. 100%.
It's going to put you in a better stead, like to take on a challenge if you're coming from that perspective than thinking that you're not.
Absolutely, yeah. I only really see it as a positive. As long as you can have that sort of realism to you but as well, I think it can only really be a positive to believe in yourself because it can push you on to do things that you wouldn't be able to do if it wasn't for that ego.
Oh, 100%. And
confidence.
You see that, don't you? And you hear a lot of people talk about, successful people saying that, like, well, if they had listened to the naysayers when they were nothing, or the people that thought they were cocky, well, then of course they would have never made anything themselves. But there's nothing wrong with having self-belief. There's nothing wrong with believing that you can make something out of yourself. And if there are people around you that almost want to like put you down for that, then they're probably not the people you want to be around.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to be around people that are encouraging and lifting you up and saying like, and as I said, there's a way to go about it. Having self-belief doesn't mean that you're putting other people down. That's different. You could, it's good to have self-belief as long as you're not putting other people down in the process, then that's a really good thing. And the people around, it'd be nice to think that there are people around you that would be like, encouraging you with that, not like trying to knock you down,
I remember
celebrating the uniqueness of it. There's just one thing I was going to say, like there's this guy called like Mark Gaffney, like talking about the ego and stuff and like how, it can get a bad rap for like, egomania and stuff. Yeah. But like this guy, there's this rabbi called Mark Gaffney and he's got a book called Unique Self. And it's, he's like, he goes really like into like Jewish teachings and stuff. And he's like it's an amazing book, and basically like he's saying that the closer you get to like God or the closer you get to faith, the more that you can celebrate your unique self. So like so your ego will never go like as in like it's not about overcoming your ego or becoming one with everything and stuff like that. It's about celebrating the uniqueness of like your certain perspective like that God can have through you and that. And it's like, and that, I thought that was
your uniqueness.
Yeah, your uniqueness, and that uniqueness to me, it's like your ego could be seen as your uniqueness rather than like your ego having this negative connotation. It's like if you're fully in your uniqueness, you're going to be completely different to every other person. And you're going to be in your full power and like doing like the most beautiful thing like from that. But that's not an egotistical thing. That's just like a beautifully unique thing,
Yeah.
So it's like, I think pretty cool.
I think something that I found really profound on ego and almost coming to terms with being, accepting it, is knowing that the difference between ego and being egotistical, because ego is just your view of yourself, isn't it? Your ego is just how you view yourself as a person. So
I feel like ego is one of those things that's like if it was like in a cup or a measuring cup. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like the oil in your car. You want just the right amount. Too much is bad for the engine. Too little is bad for the engine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like you want the just right amount. So that's how I almost see it, like a measuring curve.
For
like
sure.
Yeah, because if it's too low, then you're gonna be like riddled with self-doubt and like fears and stuff. And if it's too much, then like then
you're gonna set fire.
Yeah, exactly.
The engine's gonna set fire. Yeah, and it's gonna burn the people around you. And then people won't want to get in that car and drive it anymore because it'll be freaking just ruined, mate.
Just right, smooth as butter.
Yeah, man, just right. Oh, take that baby out for a spin, man, you know?
Yeah.
Just like get hold of the joystick, slip it into second.
500 brake horsepower.
Yeah, man.
I think it gets going back to almost a want. I think that is another problem of people that have that ego too high and have too much oil in their cup, so to speak, is that you do lose that want. You know, you almost believe that these things are handed to you, I believe, rather than actually understanding you still need to work for it. You still need to
like
give
the
everything.
desire, like
exactly. Maybe not the want, but you take these things as a given. I think if you believe in yourself too much,
like become complacent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I always like find it really interesting, like working out with different people and like trying to sort of like seeing like psychology playing out and like different types of mentalities playing out in just a working out environment. Because I feel like you can learn quite a lot about somebody. You know, if somebody's, and what I mean by that is, right, if somebody doesn't want to work out, right, I don't think that says anything about somebody, right? But if somebody says they want to work out, right, but then when they're working out they are resisting it, to me that says something about somebody. Do you know what I mean? There's a difference between that, right? And I find it really interesting seeing how some people will embrace the process and some people resist the process. And that's what you're almost like saying, Bullwinkle, in terms of like, you know, so a lot of people say things like, I want to get in shape, or I want to get strong, or I want to do this, but then it's like, you need to understand there is like a process to that needs to be embraced. It's like saying, I want to be really good on the guitar, but I don't really like practicing. But it's like, look, like you don't,
ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, and you don't even have to practice in a conventional way. You just need to find a way to do it in a way that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm sure that like people like, you know, like you correct me if I'm wrong, right? You probably have more than me, right? But I don't think the majority of the practicing that you or Josh, and I can definitely say myself, have ever done, say with any instruments, you've thought, I'm going to sit down and practice now necessarily.
You just play.
Most of the time, you just play. And it's a bit like that.
And that's what Yngwie Malmsteen says, actually. I was going to say, like, it's like he's like an insane guitarist, and a lot of people don't like him and stuff, but he treats
it like a sport. He treats it like a sport.
Yeah, but like he never practiced. He said that as well. He's like, I never practiced. I just played, and I just played and played and played and played and played and played. It's not about like trying. And he was like, and that's why it's always different in that as well, because it's just like you want to be improvising all the time. You want to just be playing, like rather than like thinking I'm going to do this like this.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why I think, you know, like the idea of say practicing an instrument probably seems so boring to somebody that wants to get good at an instrument but hasn't learned it yet, because they think, I'm gonna have to sit down with chord books and do all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that necessarily learning chords is bad. I just see it as like a tool. But I think if you say, right, what's a song you're really enjoying listening to at the moment? Okay, look up the chords to that. Okay, if it's a bit too much for you at the moment, if it's too advanced, okay, then find a different song that is like a pretty like novice song to learn. You know, that's literally like 3 chords or something. And as long as they're not chords that are particularly hard for you to play, they're just like C.
And as long as you like the song.
Yeah, if it's like a freaking D and a C and an A, like, do you know what I mean? You can pick that up pretty quickly. Yeah. And like, look, just play the song, right? At first, if you just started playing, it's not going to sound really crisp and good at first, but just keep playing it. Just keep playing it over and over again. And every like day that you play it, it's probably going to sound a bit better than the day before. And then find a different song that you like, and then maybe just have fun, because you might just have fun playing along with it. You know, stick it on the stereo and play along with it. Or if you like singing as well, then sing the lyrics while you're playing it. You know, and like, do you know what I mean? That's to me that's a fun, organic way.
Yeah,
of learning. You know,
rather than sitting down with like just doing scales over and over or something like that.
Like, you know, like paying for like this really like expensive online thing where this guy's showing you like scales over and over again and you're just having to sit there like doing to me, I find that super boring.
Yeah, I've definitely gone down that path.
Yeah, I was going to say you definitely more than me.
But then I quite enjoy that sometimes. Sometimes I've seen elements of that as something that I know it sounds weird that I do for enjoyment, almost like the challenge of like being able to do a certain lick or something.
But that's absolutely fine. Do you know what I mean? But that's the thing. It's like what is fun for you. Do you know what I mean? And as a result,
and embracing that, what's fun for you.
And also, as a result, it's no surprise that you are freaking way better lead guitarist than me. Do you know what I mean? Because you enjoyed that process and you found that fun, whereas I didn't. And it's very easy for me to say, oh well, I wish I was as good at lead, but I obviously don't want it that badly. Because if I did, then I would have put more hours in. Do you know what I mean? That's not saying that I would be obviously as good as you even if I didn't, because I think that you're naturally more talented than me as well, which is obviously a different kettle of fish. We could go down a rabbit hole with that as well, just like natural talent versus like work, like hard work, like
kind of like what we were saying earlier about like John Daly versus Tiger Woods kind of thing. Like, you know, like
how much of it is you born with and how much of it is cultivated.
Yeah,
it's definitely something to be said for natural talent. I think natural talents are almost always the best people to watch. Because it's almost, there's just something there that you can't quite believe.
And even like body like shapes and stuff in that as well. And some people that are naturally like have like what's it called, like your
genetics.
Your genetics that are just insanely like say like Arnie with like his like, you know, like
best bodybuilder ever in my opinion. Just his proportions in his prime were just insane. Like there's just the thickness of his chest and there's just the shape of his biceps, all genetic things mixed with the hard work in the gym. When you look at Usain Bolt, like his legs and his arms are just so long. He's like 6'4" or something, but it's just like hello.
It's just like
but like, you know, so much of that is just limbs. He's like so limmy. Do you know what I mean? His strides and everything. Just so you know, Bullwinkle, it's 5-4.
Yes.
So just letting everyone, Bullwinkle's got to do something quickly at 4:00.
Yes.
So I don't know if you need to like slip out and do that, man.
Yes.
No, man.
I'll slip out and
say
my goodbyes.
Slip out and party.
We'll slip back in again in a second. You know, like I don't know how much longer we're going to do the pod for, because we've already been doing almost an hour and a half. But we'll keep on for another 5 or 10 minutes. Anyway.
Nice. I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, we'll wait until you're back and then you can say goodbye with us. But yeah, you know, it's just interesting, isn't it? I think what's amazing is when you see people that have that genetic potential who then actually, you know, make the most of that. Which is what you get when you have people like Arnie and Usain Bolt.
Yeah,
and
because
that's
they
when
put
you
in
see,
the
like,
hours at the gym and that as well, and it's just like, whoa, man. They're embracing that natural talent and then they're taking it somewhere. Yeah,
because I remember on like the subject of people like Arnie, I remember I watched the Joe Rogan podcast with Ronnie Coleman. So Ronnie Coleman, people that don't know, in a lot of people's opinion, is the best bodybuilder of all time. Some people say Ronnie Coleman, some people say Arnold Schwarzenegger, some people say Dorian Yates, some people say Lee Haney. I'd say those are the main 4 guys that people will say are the best. Obviously, you know, some people might have really abstract opinions, but those are probably the 4 general people. But even Ronnie was saying that he thinks Arnold was the best, and he was saying like, because Ronnie's got like this hilarious Texan accent, that he's like almost like almost a bit like Mike Tyson, quite like a high accent for a guy that's like such a massive black dude. Do you know what I mean? Like, but he's quite like, hell yeah, like, well, I think Arnie's the best of all time. But he's like saying like, if you look at pictures of Arnie, you bear in mind like the drugs then were not like the drugs today. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, all of those freaking like modern bodybuilders that are probably on like. They're on a stack of steroids, like ridiculously.
Not just one.
No, they're on so many different
stack.
ones. Yeah, they're on loads of different ones, and some of them make you super shredded, and some of them make you super massive, and you know what I mean, all these different things, right?
They're on a cocktail.
Yeah, and some of them like make you super strong, which then make you lift bigger weights, which will then make you more muscular. Do you know what I mean? And then you're taking it with the ones that make you super shredded and dangerous, really. But he was saying that, you know, you got to bear in mind that like when you look at pictures of Arnie in his prime, like that was like really basic stuff, like super basic stuff,
and like probably less than
And there was nowhere near as much scientific literature. Like nowadays, there's so much scientific literature about like the best things for weight training and the best thing to do for build your legs or your chest or whatever. But a lot of it was just trial and error in the day. When you take all of that, you factor all of that into an account. You know, I remember there was this like, Ronnie was like pulled up this, like got young Jim to put up this picture of like Arnie doing his like side chest. It was called like side chest pose. And like to this day, there's like nobody. Like, you know, when you look at it and you're like, it's like barely even human, you know. And it's like when you bear in mind that it was like the equipment he used was more primitive. There was way less like knowledge. The drugs were simpler. You know, like I just think, you know, The same way that Usain Bolt's the best runner of all time, or at least the best sprinter. I think Arnie's like the best bodybuilder of all time. But
I think GOATs do naturally just arrive in certain sports, don't they? You've got Messi of football, Wayne Gretzky of hockey, that many people would say is the GOAT of all the GOATs. You know, some of his. I'm pretty sure every single stat in hockey is him by like 10 years in a row. It's crazy. Wow. He's like
he was
the
like
best
back
of all
in the
time.
day as well,
Everything.
He wasn't like he's not even like a
and no one's
new
come
hockey player.
close to him. And like we say, Tiger Woods, similar.
Was it Babe
Michael
Ruth
Phelps.
in baseball?
Yeah,
He's
Babe Ruth.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't think of necessarily one person in rugby, but there are some people that still stand out. Like, depends what you're talking about, what aspect of rugby. But people like Jonah Lomu, who was obviously a very famous New Zealander who played back in the sort of like 80s and 90s. I want to say, and he was just this tank of a guy. Like basically nobody could tackle him, but he could tackle everyone.
Yeah.
You know, it was like just crazy, just this absolute bull of a man.
I love it. Like certain people as well. It seems like it's just been like the trajectory of their life, like from such a young age as well. Like that John Daly thing, or the who was the golfer that you said, the Schaefer or Scotty
Scheffler?
Yeah, Scheffler. Yeah, like he was the same. Like it was from a very young age, like that where he started swinging those plastic clubs, and it's just been like the trajectory of his like whole life and stuff. And it seems like some of these people started so early, and it was like just ingrained into their trajectory. And I think that's so cool. Like, you know, it takes that natural talent, and it also takes like from a very young age.
Yeah. So if that seemed really weird, then I don't mind just saying it. Bullwinkle wanted to know the pin for my laptop, but he did it super covert and like.
Yeah, that was. I wonder what was going on there, man.
Drew was probably like, "Whoa, what the hell's he saying?" No, he just literally just sent me a message saying, "What is
Drew on about?"
Yeah, Calum, what is Drew on about? I don't know. Just
nod and smile.
Yeah.
Totally get that, man.
Yeah. Man, this has been one of those pods where like we sort of went in there with a plan.
I hadn't even mentioned anything yet.
Yeah, but we with like a loose
though.
plan. But yeah, but we'll save it till next week. We'll save it till next week, and we'll get into what we were going to talk about next week. But just because it's interesting, just because it's fun. I will leave people with a couple of interesting facts that I saved, just for people to dwell on. Last week, when you were away, no, it wasn't last week because I was in frickin' Sicily. The week before last, me and Bullwinkle did a pod, and we were talking about torture.
Ooh.
A nice chill, you know.
Nice chill vibe there.
Nice chill vibe, but yeah, I mean, let's face it, fascinating topic, innit? The things that people have like invented to do to other people.
I love
just
the
horrible.
Torture not the torture chamber, the torture
Is that a
thing in Prague.
Oh, good. Sorry, just wanted to chat. Yeah.
The torture museum. Do you remember going to there in Prague? Like,
yes.
Yeah, man.
Yes,
and it's just like 5 stories of torture devices.
Man, crazy. Human beings are so insanely creative,
innovative,
but it's hilarious the things we sometimes apply that to.
I know,
isn't it? But just to carry on a little bit from I said that we were talking about a fortnight ago about this was a crazy one. So just to finish off the pod with just a couple of more torture facts. There was a type of torture called the pear of anguish, which even in itself just sounds, this is going to be a bad thing. Right? The pear of anguish was a device that early modern Europeans labelled as a medieval torture device. Supposedly, a torturer would insert the device, which looked like a pear, into a person's mouth, vagina, or anus in order to widen the orifice, causing extreme pain before eventually splitting said orifice. Yeah, absolutely mad, isn't it? Existing examples of the so-called pear of anguish contain coiled springs, which suggest the people who crafted them lived during the early modern period that followed the Middle Ages. These examples have an unclear provenance, and there are questions about how functional they actually would have been.
Pear of anguish.
Yeah, this is a savage one that people used to do to women. It's called the breast ripper, which pretty self-explanatory. Pretty self-explanatory, but yeah. This was a particularly horrific torture that was used on what were considered to be sinful or deceitful women. The claws of this device were put on the woman's breasts, and they were often even heated to be red hot beforehand, so it would burn on impact. They were then inserted in claws, and were yanked to either tear off or shred a woman's breasts to pieces.
Oh man, that's savage.
Often this would then cause the woman's death, but obviously if it didn't, then they would just be horribly disfigured for the rest of their lives.
Jesus.
Isn't it crazy that people would do that?
Yeah, imagine like, what's your job? Oh, I'm like a torture creator or whatever.
Yeah.
I bet not even for much as well. Like I bet like whoever got that punishment done to them probably didn't even do anything that bad. It was probably like theft or something like that.
You've got to be like a gruesome person to do that, haven't you?
Yeah.
Do you remember like in Game of Thrones, he was like in the first season, there was that guy called Sir Ilan Payne, and he was the guy that beheaded Ned Stark. But he was also, do you remember there's that episodes, one of the first episodes, and he's like the bold guy, and looks really weird, and he doesn't talk because he had his tongue cut out when he was young or something like that. But he's like, you can just tell he's in the background all the time, just like gagging to like torture someone or like kill someone. And then like, do you remember? Because like Cersei tries to get in to like kill the direwolves when Joffrey gets bitten by Arya's direwolf and that. And then that's when there's like, no, I'll do it myself. And that he was of the North, he should die by the North or whatever he says to him. Yeah, but like, it's just weird, isn't it? How there would just be somebody appointed, and that's like his job is to torture and kill everyone.
Like Ramsay Bolton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's just a brutal little bugger. Really. What a savage he was. This was one I'd never heard before, which I actually thought was really interesting. I thought I'd heard of most torture sort of techniques, but this one was called the head crusher, right? Just to finish off today's episode. And this was one that was used by the Spanish during the Spanish Inquisition. Imagine that. Luckily, Calum didn't ever use this on any of us. But this was a horrible device. Frequently used during the Spanish and the Spanish Inquisition. It was basically like a little cage, right? That would go around this person's head. The victim's chin was put on the bottom, and then his head would have been beneath a cap at the top, right? The torturer would then turn screws at the side, which would press the bar and the cap together, which would compress the victim's skull. At first, it would shatter the teeth of the individual, which would in itself be agony. The compression would continue slowly for hours. Usually, it would end with the victim's eyeballs popping out of their sockets before the person would eventually die.
That might be the worst one we talked about.
Oh, it's so
getting
hard,
hydraulic pressed.
Just imagine that. It's just like a thing at the side. Imagine being you've got to be messed up to even be the person turning it. Because I think like do you know what I mean? Like, I love horror movies. I love action movies, movies with violence and stuff like that. But with that said, I like to be the person doing that. I think at the moment that the person would just get a bit of discomfort. I'd be like, I don't really want to do that to that person anymore.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd be like, no,
you wouldn't be like fully reveling in it.
If you
it's like how hard you'd have to do it as well. There'd be so much like pushback against it, wouldn't there? So you really would have to force yourself on it.
Oh man.
I like talking of
makes it even more conscious.
Yeah, like talking of Game of Thrones, I'd like to think that say we lived back in the day, right, and I was born in like some sort of noble family, I would, the Ned Stark method, understanding that if some people commit certain atrocities or crimes, that it's important both as to set an example and for the good of everyone to maybe punish that person if they're an oath breaker or something. You know how when that lad who deserts the Night's Watch in the first episode, and then Ned has to behead him because it's it's in the oath. It's and if you start breaking that, it sets a bad precedent for everyone else. Everyone will start just leaving and not taking their oath seriously. So he beheads the lad, but you can tell he takes no pleasure in it. You can tell he doesn't really want to do it. He's doing it because it's almost like his duty to do it. But he's not taking pleasure in it, and he's not torturing anyone. Do you know what I mean? And I think I just don't. Yeah, I think torture's a bit messed up, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
horrible.
I understand the use of capital punishment, and I see its relevance. Like even in modern society, I think that we could probably spend a massive pod just talking about the pros and cons of capital punishment, because I think a lot of people on the surface will say, it's really bad, but the more you look into it, the more you think about it, you actually think, there's something to be said for it.
For sure.
I'm not saying obviously willy-nilly. I don't think you should be caught without your car tax. And obviously, do you know what I mean?
Off of its head.
But I think for extreme repeat, say rapists, murderers, things like that, or people that enjoy doing things like torture, maybe there's something. Basically, that person is a damaged product, so to speak. They're damaged human being past the point of rehabilitation. At that point, if you want to talk about it in terms of plain facts, how much are they a risk to everyone else around them? How much are they a drain on resources? Is it worth it at that point? Is it worth keeping one person that's a rapist and a murderer and a torturer alive if they could potentially get free at some point in their life and kill 5 more people? To me, that's just a maths thing. That's just a maths. Surely 5 innocent people's lives are worth more than one person who has chosen to dedicate their life to ruining other people's lives, But maybe we'll save that for another pod. But interesting. We'll leave everyone on that deep question for today. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening to today's Pandora's Box. We love you. Remember, whatever platform you listen to us on, if it's on the radio, remember that we're on YouTube and Spotify, etc. Go give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok and that as well. Regardless of how you listen to us, go do us a favour, go follow us on our other platforms as well. We'll be back again next week with another Pandora's Box. Everyone give Drew their congratulations on becoming
Our Father who art in heaven.
on becoming Father Dougal. He is no longer
Yes.
Drew. He is now Father Dougal forevermore on the pod with little baby Angus.
Baby
And
Angus.
Victus Manio keeping the Armstrongs alive. And yeah, cheers everyone. We love you. I've been me. He's been Bullwinkle.
I've been me.
Not been me.
Have a great week. Ta-ta for now.
Bye-bye.